Welcome, night owls. Some stories sound like they've been told 100 times, yet every voice that repeats them seems to lose a little more sleep. Grandpa Joseph is back with one of those. He sent me a note a few months ago. Just 3 words. The tree's bleeding again. Tonight, he's ready to explain what that means. Joseph, thank you for coming back.
Thank you, Jacob. And thank you to all the folks who keep listening to an old man's memories. The story I have tonight, it starts in the summer of 1964. Though maybe it never really ended. I'd been away from my hometown for near 40 years, left when I was young, like most boys do, thinking the world had cleaner air somewhere else. Then a letter came, handwritten, shaky cursive, from a woman named Clara Lynn. She said she was the last one still living out near Carter Farm. She wrote, "Joe, the tree won't stop bleeding. You should come before it's too late." I almost tossed it, thought it was another small-town ghost story. But that phrase stuck in my head, bleeding tree. It sounded like something out of the Bible. So I packed my truck, drove the 2-lane road back to Mill Creek County, and told myself it'd just be a visit. The town was smaller than my memory. Most houses sagged under vines, windows boarded. Even the church steeple leaned like it had grown tired of pointing at heaven. Clara's place sat at the edge of the fields, same paint peeling from the porch rails I remembered as a boy. She came out with a kerchief on her head, face like paper folded 100 times. "Joe," she said, "you took your sweet time." I said, "Didn't think I'd ever be called back." She pointed across the field. "You're not the one doing the calling." Past her shoulder stood the sycamore, tall, hollowed at the base, bark dark like it had been burned. From a distance it looked wet, and when the sun hit it, you could see streaks running down like tears. I'd seen trees leak sap before, amber or clear, but this was near black, thick as oil. "I sure it's not disease?" I asked. She shook her head. "Every spring it does that. Only since Eddie died." The name caught me. Eddie Ray Hollis. 10 years old when the flood came, back in 25. We used to fish together down by the creek, sneak cigarettes in the barn. He'd gone missing after that storm. People said he got swept off the road. I knew better. We all did. Clara poured coffee in 2 chipped mugs and sat across from me on the porch. She said, "He's still under there." She nodded toward the tree. "Your daddy planted it the week after the funeral. Said it had marked the spot." I remembered my father's shovel that day. Mud to his knees, eyes red. I was 16. We never said the word body, never said buried, just planted. I said, "You sayin' he..." She said, "I'm sayin' it never took right. Ground stayed soft, and now it's crying." That night, I couldn't sleep. The farmhouse walls creaked like old lungs, and through the open window came the sound of the tree dripping, slow, patient, a steady tap against the roots. When the moon cleared the clouds, I swear the trunk looked like it was breathing.
I told myself it was wind, always easier to blame the wind. At dawn, I walked out there. The soil was damp, dark as tar. I touched the bark, and it was warm. When I pulled my hand back, it glistened. Not sap, too thick. It smelled metallic, like pennies. I wiped it on my jeans, and it left a stain that didn't fade. There was a hollow near the base, big enough to fit a man's arm. Inside, something shifted. A nest, maybe. But then I heard a breath. Slow inhale, slower out. I stumbled back and nearly fell. The sound stopped as soon as I spoke. That's when I saw the carving, low on the trunk, half hidden by moss. E-R-H, 1925. Someone had gone over it again recently. Deeper cuts, fresh wood showing. Clara came out holding a lantern, though it was full daylight. She asked, "You hear him?" I said, "I heard wind." She smiled a sad kind of smile. "You always were a liar when you were scared." Later in town, I asked around. Most folks pretended they didn't remember the Hollis boy. One old storekeeper, Mr. Watts, finally said, "You let sleeping trees lie, Joe." I told him trees don't sleep. He said, "That one does, till it doesn't." When I got back to the farm, Clara was gone. Door wide open, kettle still warm. Only sound was the cicadas humming too loud, like static in the air. I called her name till my throat hurt. The only answer was the slow drip, drip, drip from that tree. Something about the rhythm. It wasn't random. 3 drops, pause, 2, over and over, like a code, like knocking from underground. I dug at the base with a rusted spade I found by the fence. The dirt came up in heavy clumps. About a foot down, the ground changed color, dark red, almost black. Then the shovel hit wood, not root, boxwood. The coffin shouldn't breathe, but I heard air move inside it. That's where I'll stop for tonight. What comes next? Well, that's when the tree started to talk. When I found that wooden box under the roots, I stopped breathing for a full 10 seconds. It wasn't fear yet, just disbelief. A man convinces himself he's chasing curiosity long after it turns into something else.
The box looked about child-sized. The dirt around it kept sighing as if air was leaking out slow. I called for Clara again, even though I knew she wouldn't answer. Then I dug my fingers into the soil, brushed the lid clear. The wood was soft, spongy with age. There were no hinges, only nails bent from time. I tapped once with the handle of the shovel. Hollow sound. Then a muffled knock back. I swear to God, Jacob, I heard it. 3 knocks, then 2. Same rhythm the sap had made when it fell from the bark. I stumbled back, dropped the shovel, and the roots seemed to tighten, curling toward the hole like hands closing a wound. Something dark seeped up through the dirt, thicker than sap now. The smell heavier, closer to rust than wood. I ran to the pump to wash my hands, but the water came out brown first, then red. Only after a few seconds did it turn clear again. That night I sat on the porch till near dawn listening. The air felt full of someone else's breath. I tried not to look at the tree, but my eyes kept sliding toward it. Every time the breeze moved through its limbs, it whispered like my name cut short. Joe, Joe. Around 4 a.m., I must have dozed. I woke to the sound of the front door creaking open. Thought it was the wind again. Then I saw muddy footprints, small ones, across the floorboards. Barefoot, child-sized. They stopped right beside my chair. The chair felt warm, as if someone had been standing there a long while. I whispered, "Eddie?" before I could stop myself. And from outside, soft as a sigh, "I'm still here." When the sun came up, the footprints were gone, but the boards where they'd been were warped and damp. I went into town again, found the preacher, told him I might need a prayer said for a grave that wasn't quite at rest. He looked at me the way a man looks at lightning before it hits. "Some things don't want words laid on 'em," he said. "You bring a preacher, you make it listen harder." I didn't understand then, but I do now. I went back anyway. Couldn't stay away. The tree looked wider than before, the hollow darker. There were flies, hundreds, circling but never landing, like they were afraid to touch it. The sound inside had changed too. No more breathing. Now it was a low hum, steady, like a choir half asleep under the ground. I leaned closer, and the hum shaped itself into syllables. "You left me." My throat locked. I reached inside the hollow, and the air felt colder, thick like syrup. My fingertips brushed something slick, wood or skin, I couldn't tell. I yanked my hand out, and a small piece of cloth came with it, blue, faded, with a button still attached. It was the same shirt Eddie wore the day he disappeared. I know because my mother had sewn that button on herself. I sat there for a long time, holding that cloth, waiting for guilt to explain itself. But guilt doesn't speak English. It just breathes. Clara came back at sunset, walking out from the field like nothing was wrong. Her eyes looked clearer than before, almost peaceful. "You found him," she said. I asked where she'd gone. She smiled. "Nowhere you could follow." Then she pressed her hand to the tree and whispered something I couldn't catch. The bark around her palm darkened, almost pulsed. "Stop that," I said, stepping forward. She didn't move. "Clara!" The tree's shadow swallowed her hand first, then her arm up to the elbow. She looked at me, calm as anything. "It always needed one of us to stay," she said. Before I reached her, she was gone, folded into the bark like a photograph slipping into water. I dug again that night till my fingers bled, till the moon hid behind clouds. The hole filled itself with sap and dirt every time I pulled a handful out. I heard whispers all around me, a child's laughter, then sobbing, then silence. When the first light came, the ground was smooth again. No sign I'd ever touched it. Only the tree standing there, still bleeding. I left Mill Creek that morning. Didn't pack, didn't lock the door. Just drove. But all the way down that road, I could feel the vibration under the tires, keeping that same rhythm. 3 beats, pause, 2.
A week later, I saw a story in the county paper. Old farm burns down overnight. They said lightning struck it, said the tree was the first thing to go. But the photograph that came with the article, blurred, smoky, showed a shape standing where the trunk used to be. Small, barefoot. It's been 12 years since that summer. I swore I'd never go back to Mill Creek, but last fall I dreamed of it 3 nights straight. The same dream every time. I'm standing in the old field, wind cold as river water, and the tree isn't there anymore. Just the hollow where it used to be, and from inside it, a heartbeat. I took that as an invitation, or a warning, I still don't know which, and I drove down. The road looked cleaner than it ever did. New asphalt, new signs, but the air smelled the same. Rain mixed with iron. The farmhouse was gone. Nothing left but a patch of darker grass where the porch used to stand. I parked and walked until I reached the spot where the sycamore had stood. The earth there was cracked open like a healed scar that forgot to close. And when I knelt down, the soil gave under my palm, soft, almost breathing, and that smell came back, sap and rust together.
Someone had set up a chain-link fence around the property, maybe to keep people from dumping trash. There was a warning sign on it. Danger, unstable ground. I almost laughed. They didn't know how right they were. When the wind picked up, I heard it again. The rhythm. 3 beats, pause, 2. It wasn't the ground this time. It was coming from inside my chest, answering back. I told myself to leave, told myself some ghosts belonged to the dirt, but I took one more step toward that hollow, and the ground caved. I fell maybe 6 feet, landed hard, dust rising around me. The hole smelled of wet roots and something older. When my eyes adjusted, I saw the outline of a box, bigger now, like it had grown with the earth around it. And there, pressed into the wood, were fingerprints, hundreds of them, small, deep, like clay molded by restless hands. I said out loud, "Eddie, I'm sorry." The box creaked. A voice smaller than breath answered, "Then remember." The air shimmered, and for a second the walls of dirt turned clear, like glass showing what used to be. I saw the flood again, the road washed out, Eddie screaming for help. I saw myself, 16, scared, too slow to reach him. He slipped. I never told anyone I'd been there. The picture vanished. All that remained was the hum, lowered now like a tired engine. I climbed out as the first drops of rain started. The hole closed behind me, soil settling smooth. When I reached the truck, I looked back once. A sapling had already sprouted where the hollow was, thin but alive. Its bark shone wet even before the rain touched it. I drove home without headlights, let the dark guide me. And when I pulled into my driveway, there was a small smear on the windshield, dark, sticky. I wiped it with my thumb. It smelled of sap, the same kind. I don't know if the curse followed me or if it was mine all along. Sometimes I think every place we leave behind plants a version of us that never stops waiting. Sometimes I dream I'm the tree, and all I can do is bleed until someone remembers why. That's all I have tonight, Jacob. If anyone listening ever finds a tree that looks like it's weepin', don't touch it. It doesn't want saving. It wants company.
Thank you, Joseph. Every time he visits, I find myself staring at the walls afterward, listening for roots. Maybe that's how grief works. It keeps growing beneath the surface, waiting for a storm. If you ever pass a field where nothing grows right, where the ground feels softer than it should, take the long way around. Some memories don't want to be buried. They just want to be heard once more. Good night, night owls. Sleep lightly. And if you hear knocking from the earth below your window, remember what Grandpa Joseph said. Don't answer.